Okay, hello everyone. I'm Ruth Bennett, a board member at Fairfax Public Access, and I'd like to welcome you to our second meet and greet about podcasting. And with this meet and greet, we're calling it Podcasting at FPA. And yes, we're so excited that podcasting is coming to FPA. And at this meet and greet, we want to learn about the what, the when, and the whys of podcasting at FPA. And we're going to be speaking or listening to two of our podcasting experts from FPA. So I'm going to turn it over to Colin now, and he's going to introduce our speakers, or let them introduce themselves.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, my name's Colin Davies, and I'm a radio producer, and I'm a board member. And in our previous meet and greet, a couple of months ago, Michael Collins talked about the current podcasting scene, how to select a podcasting topic, how and where to produce a podcast, the equipment you need, the optimum length, how to reach an audience, legal copyright requirements, and what he considered the future of podcasting. And as Ruth says, today we'll be looking at how FPA can help you produce a podcast, and we'll also be learning about the new Studio D, where we now see Arselius. So I'm going to be throwing out the questions, and Jay and Arselius will be answering. It's going to be a fairly loose format, so I know a number of producers are already producing podcasts, so it would be great if they could chip in as well. But when I ask either Jay or Arselius a question, I'm expecting one or both of them to chip in. Let's first of all, maybe people don't, because I don't really know them, know Jay and Arselius. So maybe we could just have a minute or so from each of them to tell us a little about themselves. Should we start with Jay?
Sure. So I'm sure everybody knows me from all the emails I send out. I'm Jay Adowskin. I'm the director of the training department, and I've been around roughly 15 years now at FPA, different positions, but I'm quite the old timer at the station. I take care of all the trainings, information announcements, take care of the training catalogs. I do have a few contacts with the community when it comes to the schools and the libraries. And I'm always open for input regarding the members. This is one of the reasons why we're offering this class, and we're hoping that this is a step towards the whole podcasting idea. And today we're hoping to explain what the Studio D is, what the training we're going to offer, and the ways that members are going to be able to start creating podcasting content at FPA. Right?
That's great.
Thanks for coming in today.
Thank you. Great. And Arselius?
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Arselius Joyner. I've been with FPA for approximately 2 years now. And prior to my tenure here at FPA, I was a senior engineer with CNN, the Washington Bureau. I was there for about 3 years. And before that, I worked for the Middle East Broadcast Network for 12 years as a senior engineer. My experience is very broad, from international to radio to television to satellite. And I'm also a New York native, born and raised. Father of 4 sons, and that's probably my most pride accomplishment, from the ages of 22 down to 5. So hopefully you guys will learn a little bit more about FPA and the studio, which I'm recording live out of the studio right now.
That is extremely exciting. So we're going to be talking about two kind of separate but interrelated topics, which are Studio B and podcasting. So let's start off in Studio B. And as I said, I'm going to expect both of you or either of you to talk about this. Perhaps you could tell us why it was installed, who installed it, and what was their member demand for it?
Sure. So, Arselius, if you don't mind me starting with why we decided to bring it in.
Sure.
And sort of like I hinted earlier today, I've been getting feedback from members regarding how they could start taking the content they create at FPA and put it online for several semesters now. And starting on the fall of 2021, I actually started bringing in an instructor to sort of collaborate on how to create a podcast curriculum. Now, her name was Linda Lawson, and she had podcasting training backgrounds. She does her own podcast. She teaches this class in DCTV, and she now works for Arlington Independent Media. So for over 6 months, I was sort of designing the curriculum, forwarding it to her. She was providing the feedback, and she was the one that really sort of recommended just starting with audio podcasting first. So that's something I will be highlighting today in today's training. And depending how that goes, branching it out for future training regarding video and video podcasting. So yeah, the feedback from the members has been a long time coming. And it does fit with our mission to engage the community, to offer media production training and facilities. And yeah, great. TV is one thing, radio is another thing. And more people are interested in doing podcasting and listening to podcasts. So how can we offer that option to the members? And that's what we're trying to achieve right now. And then regarding the use of the new equipment, I'll let Arselius talk more about that. But I am happy to say that it's very intuitive, and it should be really easy for any member to come in, pick that training up, and start creating content from there once they have the right certifications.
Right. Yeah. Arselius, first of all, can you just, it's called Studio D. I mean, there seem to be different names floating around, but we've decided on Studio D, have we?
Yes, the nomenclature will be Studio D, or is Studio D. It's basically, we have a Studio A, a Studio B, Studio C. So it only made sense that we make this studio called Studio D. And
Right.
as Jay alluded to, we installed it for the members. And we wanted a design that was just going to be modern, professional, and something that people hadn't seen before, which is some of the reasons why the idea for the Whisper Room was presented. And especially after 2 years of COVID and the shutdown that we had, I think it was something that the members they asked for it, but they didn't actually realize they were asking for it, because it gives them another reason to return to FPA.
Yeah.
Sorry, you just called it the Whisper Room, but that's the same thing.
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
When it comes to the name, if you don't mind me interjecting, in all the training materials, you're gonna see Studio D, but that's really the facility designation for the reservation. So whenever you're gonna make reservations, you refer to it as Studio D. But in all my training materials, I do have the name Recording Pod attached to it, because I think that's more of a descriptive name of what the facility does. You're in your own little pod, and you can record, whether it's video, audio content. You're gonna have a lot of options in that little room. But Recording Pod is sort of the one I'm pushing towards the teachers to begin using as well.
Okay, so we call it Recording Pod, the Whisper Room, and Studio D.
Yeah.
Okay. Arselius, can you tell us give us I think you've got a video, haven't you? Can you tell us a little about the equipment, the hardware, the software in it?
So we chose some of the most recommended solutions for a podcast were selected. So we have the controller unit called the Rodecaster Pro, which is the controller. Basically, it's the brains of the operation. If you don't mind, I have a video that I can show, so you guys can actually see a visual of what we're actually describing.
Great.
That's great.
I'll share my screen here. 1 second. Can everyone see this?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So the studio was equipped with two ventilation systems. One supplies air and the other is a silent exhaust. Each system has a separate HEPA filter designed to maintain the airflow while also blocking out any unwanted particles. As you can see, we have a tempered glass window that has excellent sound dampening qualities. And the glass is specifically made to reduce any type of noise and deflections. The door is fully insulated with multi-layer sound resistant material. And as you can see, it's carpeted on the outside as well as the inside. We installed the rubber steps, which were purchased separately to help members enter and exit the studio. We also installed the acoustic studio foam made by Auralex, which has been proven to reduce noise and enhance sound quality. There is a dimmable LED light controller for the circular ceiling mounted lights. And there's also a remote control attached to the wall that controls the LED strips around it.
Wow.
The remote control allows you to change modes as well as colors.
What are modes?
Modes can be like dancing modes or strobe lights.
Right.
There's the Rodecaster Pro. Again, that's the brains of the studio. It's a real quality controller. It's basically a studio podcast in a box.
Great.
Logitech camera. There's a light behind me, behind the monitor that you can see that's controlled by the remote control as well. It's also dimmable and has different mode selections.
Wow. Wow.
That was a few sounds from the sound pad. You can rename your pads. Members can upload their own audio sound clips,
Cool.
choose different colors, and decide on your playback style. So that's a quick video of the Studio D.
That's fantastic. What did it cost? Do you have any idea?
So we got a really great deal on the price for the studio itself. The prices are on the website. If you go to whisperroom.com, you'll see the pricing up there for the different various models that they have. The model that we currently have is the 6084. And the 6084, this unit was, it came in on a tractor trailer, an 18-wheeler. It weighed in at approximately a ton. When we received it, it was wrapped, it was boxed. We actually put it together ourselves. So the engineering team, myself, and two of the other engineers were responsible for installing it. If you don't mind, I can show you guys a picture of the installers.
Okay.
So this is the basic footprint of the studio itself. You can see everything was modular, and it was fabricated, built by the engineering department.
I think it's fabulous. Good God. That's amazing.
These are the three guys responsible for this build. That's Sumit Shrestha, who's actually on tonight, and we had Adam Abigera, who helped us install this.
Wow. That's fabulous.
Thank you.
So what can it be used for?
Sure. So I could take over that
Yeah.
question. So it's really designed to do solo recording. Okay. So just like Arselius highlighted, there's multiple channels in the mixer, but you only have one input for the host. Okay. But with that said, so even though it's set up to do solo recording, you could remote guest in. So you could either, call them through your phone, or you could use Zoom, and you could technically do like remote interviews in that pod, in the recording pod. So yes, you could do a solo radio sort of audio production, or with the webcam, you could sort of do a video sort of production.
Yeah.
If you want a space that you could come in at FPA and do quick voiceovers, you could pop in, turn on the microphone, turn on whatever channels you're going to use, and record your audio for any sort of voiceover work you might need, regardless whether it's for your radio or your TV show. If you want to record a quick promo of your program, you could use that facility for that. Or if you're in any of the TV or radio studios in the control room, and you want another space that you could, bring your guests in, and they could go to Studio D, you could set up the devices for them, and then that could be another facility that you could remote a guest into your show. Yeah. So it does have multiple purposes, and that's the benefit of having a facility like that.
Wow. So, I and a lot of the people most of the people watching probably are producers, okay? What special training is there, do we need, or do we have to have in order to use it? Or can we just sign it out and go in and have a go?
So with all the equipment that we have, there's always a need for training. We need to make sure whoever's going to use the space knows how to use it. And it's not going to damage it or misuse it in any way. So we did have to get creative regarding how we're going to offer that training due to the size of the space. We can't fit a classroom in that space.
Right.
So we developed something that we're calling a self-training workshop. Okay, self-training. So the training department, along with the other departments, Lisa's department, we created a how-to guide and a training tutorial video. Okay, somebody that wants to get.
Can you say that again? Sorry.
So we created 2 resources for the members: a how-to guide and a training tutorial video. Right. And it's open for anybody that wants to sign up for it. It doesn't have a special. You don't have to wait for a special class. You could contact us tomorrow, and you could get access to the materials. Now, it does have a $35 fee. Okay, so you have to register for the training, for the self-taught training. It has a $35 fee, and you get 2 weeks of what we call student time. You follow the tutorial videos, you go through the how-to guide, and you sort of get comfortable in the use of the mixer, the microphone, the webcam, and the software devices that come with the room. And then you do have to test out. So once you're at the end of those 2 weeks, you set up an appointment with us at the training department, and we'll do a quick walkthrough test out with you. Make sure that you know how to operate it, and you're certified. Okay.
Now, and when does that start?
You could start calling us tomorrow. If you want to register for the self-appointment workshop, you just give the training department a call, you complete the registration fee, and we'll send you the materials. And then you start making the reservations when you come into practice by calling the equipment room.
Okay.
And on top of that, for those that might be struggling, maybe they never took a self-taught workshop. If you are struggling during those 2 weeks of student time, give me a call at the training department, and I'll arrange for a free one-on-one with our staff in the training department to help you walk through anything that might be confusing to you. And that way you could still go through at least a 1-hour workshop with a staff member before you schedule your test out. And hopefully when you take the test out, you're ready for it. But I do not want to scare anybody. The equipment is very intuitive. We have set it up as almost like sit and play. You come in, you turn it on, and you can start playing with it. And that's how the tutorial video is set up. If you guys want, I could share a quick little 1-minute preview of the video.
Sure.
Okay, so let me do that.
Sure. Yeah.
Arselius, can you double check to make sure I have sharing access? Maybe
Okay, go ahead, Jay.
Okay, thank you.
There's no audio.
Audio?
No.
Sorry, guys, you're not hearing any of the audio for that?
No.
Okay, let me try another link. 1 second, okay? Go to sorry. Let's go to.
While Jay looks for the video, there was a request. Can we show how the lights are flashing? I'm not sure how this is going to show on camera, but if you give me a minute, I'll actually turn the lights off and see if you can see the lights flashing.
Ooh.
Okay, guys, I could try again. So let me share the screen one more time. See if that works. You hear okay?
No.
No.
Hi, guys.
Jay, I'm sorry to interfere, but you know, when you share your screen, just at the bottom of share your screen, you have a checkbox, and the checkbox said share your audio. So if you don't check the box, then you
Oh,
won't.
okay, I see it. I see it now.
Yeah, and then also
Yeah,
you
got
can optimize for videos.
There we go. Let's try it the third time as ago.
This course is designed to teach students about all the possibilities our recording pod has to offer. Whether you want to use it as a solo pre-recording studio or as a space to record voiceovers, B-roll, or promos for your programs. The objective of this course is to learn the basic operations regarding the Rodecaster Pro mixer, the Shure SM7B microphone, the Pro HD webcam, and applications like the Rodecaster Companion app, Audition, Audacity, OBS, and Zoom. To reserve Studio D, you must be a certified TV or radio producer with an approved program proposal or a student currently enrolled in the course. Producers not certified in the use of the recording pod equipment can still reserve Studio D but must find a certified member to volunteer.
I'm
The
taking
room may be reserved in 1 hour increments up to 4 hours by calling the equipment room.
Okay, everybody. So that what Lisa mentioned in the tutorial video is the same rules that apply to the other productions. If you're gonna use our equipment, sorry. If you're gonna use our equipment, you still need to be either certified on the equipment and be helping a fellow producer, or you also have to be a producer to use the equipment. So keep that in mind, okay?
Wait, sorry, just be clear. So a non-producer who wants to use it has to have a certified producer with them.
Right, you cannot use the equipment for personal use. So if you don't have a show that you're gonna use this facility for, then I'm hoping at that point you're volunteering your services, just like anybody that takes a studio camera class or the audio class or the lighting class. They wanna get better at it by volunteering. So they'll offer their services to help a producer who might be interested in using that facility. But if you do want to use it for your own show and handle the equipment yourself, then you do have to be either a radio TV producer, a radio or a TV producer.
And how many people can fit in?
It's really set up for solo production. For one person. The volunteer can easily come in, set it up for the guest, or set it up for the producer who's not certified, and let them, once they know how to switch the fader, let them operate it for that moment. But it's really set up for one person.
Right. Well, I mean, I think it's absolutely fantastic. So do other people have questions and comments?
Yeah. Thank you.
Some people have written comments on the chat, so maybe they could just sort of chime in with them. And Martine gets the prize of the day for identifying the lack of sound problem.
Thank you for that.
That's it now. Right. Thank you, sir. Jay, you mentioned that the cost, but the cost is $35. And I know that there is a rule about volunteering, taking 50% of the cost out. Is it after the volunteering that is now, that is the discount of volunteering that makes it to be $35 or $35 in gross?
Sure. So we do offer different discounts in any of our training and any of our courses. We have either a 20% senior discount or a 20% student discount. And for those who have been around the station for a long time, we've been promoting the volunteer discount program. So yes, if you volunteer in other positions and you start accumulating those volunteer credits, you could definitely cut that $35 fee in half. No problem at all. For those who might be considering or questioning whether they could rent the Studio D for personal projects, we're still working on that idea, whether we're gonna open the Studio D for rental purposes. If you're gonna rent the facility, then none of the need for you to produce content to air at FPA, that won't apply. Just like the potential for people to right now rent any of the TV studios. If they're gonna rent for fee for hire or a rental fee, you don't have to create content to air at FPA. But we haven't determined the price or the policies regarding rentals of that space. For right now, we're just opening it up for the members so they could create content to air at FPA and then create that podcast version of the show so they could put it online.
So
now there's several questions in the chat. Vincent asks about podcasting, how to produce a podcast, even from home, topic selection, etc. That's what we're going to be doing in the second half of this program. So hang on. Janet asks, is there a recording of the first meet and greet, the one we had with Michael Collins? Jay?
I'm pretty sure there is, and I thought we had shared that link to the membership a while ago, once we had aired the show as a special. I could check with programming tomorrow morning, and I could double check with Chuck afterwards to see if we could reshare that announcement with the membership. But I'm pretty sure we have a recording of it.
That's good. Now, Don asked, how long are the blocks of time for which it is reserved?
Sure. So minimum 1 hour, maximum 4 hours.
Okay. Great.
And most of the long blocks, we're guessing that people want to come in and practice. So, we don't want to limit it. But yeah, 1 to 4. Yeah.
Right. Martine, your question, what is the price of the day?
The price of the day, like the training? Or that's the question I thought somebody might have if they were thinking of renting it. If you're thinking of renting the spot, we haven't determined that.
Martine? Oh,
I'm still here. Because you said I won the price of the day, so I was wondering, it was a joke. I was just wondering what it was.
Sorry.
Oh, the prize. I'm sorry. The prize. Oh,
I'm doing my accountant, so I misspelled it. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
I'm sorry, the prize. Oh, yeah. Well, there'll be an extremely loud round of applause. Yeah. And can content be created and posted online as a complement to your radio show? That's what Matt asked.
That is the $1 million question. How can you create the content and put it online? If you follow FPA policies, you have to first air it at the station. So you still have to follow those rules. If you create any content, it has to air at FPA, and then you could get permission to distribute it online.
Yeah, and that's the question that we discussed at the board at length. Yeah. You cannot create a podcast on it that is not part of your broadcast show. Is that right? Yes.
Correct. You got it.
Yeah.
So there are 2 people with hands up. I don't know if you can see that.
And there's somebody through chat who has put up a question. Maybe Jay can look at that too. That question is from Vincent Scott to everyone.
Vincent Scott?
Yeah, it's from Scott.
Colin?
Yes.
John Hinkle and Marianne Metz have their hands.
Right. So, Marianne, your question, please.
Yeah, thank you. This may be something that will evolve over time and may change, but what are the hours that the Studio D will be available and the days?
So it's the same as any of the television studio hours. So that right now means weekdays from 12 p.m. to 10 p.m. and weekends from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Thanks.
Yep.
And the other question was Dr. Henkel.
Doctor, I got promoted. I wanted to ask, the show that I do uses a lot of recorded copyrighted music. And if I were to use a podcast as another way of getting that programming out, would the licensing agreement that FPA already has cover that copyrighted music?
Unfortunately, no, not at all. So the only licensing that we pay mainly is the streaming. So anybody that creates a radio show at FPA on channel 37, and you go to our website, you could listen live through that stream, or you could, use a smartphone to tune in, use the TuneIn radio app or something like that, and you could listen to the live stream. The live stream cannot be manipulated. You cannot pause it, you cannot rewind it, you cannot store it, you cannot archive it or anything like that. So the cost to FPA, it's affordable because of that. If you try to get that same content with your copyrighted music and request it to be added as a podcast in any of the hosting services, they're gonna ask you for copyright proof, and they're gonna ask you to, if you don't, to pay for the cost of that rights. So we're gonna lean anybody that takes the podcasting classes to be aware of that. Now, if you have a sponsor that could support that and pay for those things, kudos. But we're gonna recommend not using copyrighted music, just like we do for television producers.
So it's mainly going to be talk programming, basically. It's going to be.
Yeah, it could be talk. It could be maybe a podcast, like a podcast producer arranges something with a local band, cross promoting. There's plenty of resources that you could buy or use copyrighted free music, or get the rights to use some of the music. But it's some of the homework that the producer will have to take on.
Right. And, royalties, of course, are horrendously expensive. So I imagine most folks are probably not going to be using copyrighted music in their podcasts.
Yeah. And if you listen to a lot of podcasts, it is mostly talk.
Right.
They sort of find a niche or a topic, and they sort of target that. And that's what we're hoping sort of our members sort of lean towards doing.
Great. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks a lot, Jay. Appreciate that.
And Jay, Don asked a question, which I think we've covered. Is the podcasting facility only available for people who have radio shows?
No, you could, because of the option to have a webcam, you could technically turn it on, and you could still use the mixer, but you could create a video content out of that room. If you're remote interviewing somebody through Zoom, you could actually do almost the same thing that you could do right now in the TV studios when you have a Zoom guest. So we want to give members as many options as possible.
Right.
Could I ask another question, Jay?
Yes. Go ahead, John.
I lost my train of thought. Excuse me.
It's okay.
It'll come back to me. Thanks.
Right. Well, we're always here for when it comes.
Yeah.
Now,
okay, great.
All right, you can feel free to call me.
Part 2 on podcasting.
Okay.
And let's start off with whichever you want to sort of start the ball rolling. How do I produce? I mean, some of this was covered in the previous session, but how do I produce a podcast, and what equipment do I need? And if there are any producers already producing podcasts, could they please chime in?
Okay, so let's go with the first question. What equipment do you need? Okay.
Yes.
So that really dictates what type of show you want to make. If it's audio only, an audio podcast, it's one set of equipment, more like the radio producers. If it's a video podcast, the use of the webcam in the Studio D will be one option. But technically, you could do podcast content in any of our facilities. Radio studios right now, or the TV studios right now, or take our field equipment right now and set it up as a way that you could create the content with the concept that you're going to create a podcast out of it. So that is a big question. The class, the audio podcasting class that I'm covering, the teacher is going to walk through the steps of such decisions. Based on the show idea, what equipment you have to need, and then you have to decide whether you're going to use FPA equipment or you're going to try to do your own little studio from home, like set up your own little recording studio, audio or video from home. You're more than welcome to take the Studio D training, sort of get the understanding of how we set that up and try to recreate that from home. Because it's fairly affordable when it comes to the computers, the microphones, the mixer, the webcam, and the class will cover such things. Now,
so it can be done in one can use any of the studios, including D, or at home.
Absolutely. Yeah, it just depends on your content, the content that you're gonna create. Just like John mentioned, if he takes his radio show right now with all those music rights, he's gonna have to re-edit that out. He's gonna have to re-edit that out. Maybe at that point, the podcast version of that will be a lot shorter, unless he adds extra sort of segments to it. But it's feasible to do what you do right now, the way you're doing it right now, and create a podcast version of that.
Jay, can I ask? I'm sorry.
Asking, what would happen realistically if John went ahead with his show that included regular copyright music? I mean,
well, I'm pretty sure if he gets to the point of it getting approved, even if he gets to the point that a hosting platform or service will actually accept it, then I'm sure within a reasonable number of days, he'll get a cease and desist order.
Really?
To not use materials that he or she does not have permission to use.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I would.
Why don't we try it out with John as
Oh boy, nothing like being a scapegoat.
Yeah. That happens even for people that want to do channels on YouTube. Once the copyright holders learn of it, if they want to pursue it and stop it, they have the whole legal rights to do that.
Okay. Jay, can I ask a question?
Yeah, John.
Okay. Now, let's say you've produced a podcast. Now, where do you get the podcast hosted?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a question that, again, we'll cover in the training classes, but basically to give you an idea, you recording an audio file and saving as a MP3, that does not make it a podcast. You can't just put it on your Facebook page or your blog because you don't have the right sort of services for people to be able to start downloading it or subscribing to it. Right. So once you have the idea to create the podcast show, you have to determine how you're going to create the metadata for the file, the right format, and you have to do your research to find what hosting services online you're going to join. And some of them offer it for free for a while with a few limitations, or you could pay for the service so you could upload your file, they'll create the RSS feed so people could start subscribing it to. And most of the hosting platforms nowadays will also work with you, or you could determine what directories you're gonna allow people to be able to download it from, whether it's Apple Podcast or Spotify or Google Podcast. So yeah, that is something that the classes will cover, the audio podcast class will cover, but the producer has to take over that responsibility because it's their decision on how they're gonna share that show with the listeners.
Yeah, in the previous meet and greet, John, Michael mentioned Podbean.
Yes.
A Blu-ray, which is spelled in a funny way. Apple, Amazon, Spotify, SoundCloud.
Yes.
Jay, any of those that you, particularly recommend or don't recommend, or is this something?
The three that I recommend, and again, this is based on sort of my feedback with my instructors and sort of what the industry likes. Podbean is definitely one of them. Blurbery is another one, and Buzzsprout is another one. Okay.
What's the third one?
Buzzsprout. BUCC and then SPROUT. Buzzsprout, like a bee, buzz, and then sprout, like a flower. Okay. So those three. And if anybody wants this information, feel free to email me, or I could include it on the tips for my next training announcement. I could include this information.
Okay.
But those I would just want to add that those three hosting services will allow you to they give you options and the tools to create your own little blog or your own little Facebook page. So you can actually create like a website for your podcast. And from there, you could have a player or the links to the directories where people could download it from.
Okay. Now, can you tell us a little about the class on podcasting
Sure.
production?
So, okay,
And also, is it designed for current producers or is it designed for people new to broadcasting or both?
Okay, so step one, I do not want anybody to get confused regarding the Studio D self-training class and then the audio for podcasting class. There are two different courses we're offering at FPA this semester.
Yeah.
The audio for podcasting class, it could be for a beginner or it could be for somebody that's already doing a show, because it depends on how you're coming into this class. So if you're a newbie, it gives you the groundwork of how you're gonna start planning your idea for your show, from the concept of how you're gonna do it, to the equipment that you're gonna use, to the platforms you're gonna sort of decide to use the services for, okay? So if you're brand new, if you've never done anything like this before, then when you're taking the audio podcasting class, the teacher's gonna highlight, okay, if you wanna do it at FPA, all of these are your options at FPA. If you don't wanna do it at FPA, then you have to consider this sort of equipment. And I'm talking about software and hardware equipment that you're gonna need, okay? Now, if you're already an FPA producer, then the benefit is that the class is going to help you figure out how you're going to transition, just like John had, how you're going to transition the show that you're already making into a podcasting version of that. Okay?
Yeah.
So it does have benefits for newbies and current producers. Yeah.
Okay. And tell us a little more about the class, how long it is and how much and when it starts and everything, please.
So the audio for podcasting class is set up as a lecture and it's 3 sessions long. So it's probably once a week for three weeks. It'll be a 3-hour class each day. So we're talking about 9 hours of lectures. And it has let's make sure I give you the right cost. It has the fee of $150 for that, okay? Now the little bonus, if you do register for the audio for podcasting class, that $35 fee that I mentioned for the Studio D self-taught material, that's all included on it, okay?
Oh, right.
So the audio for podcasting class, the teacher during the class hours, it's gonna cover the lectures of, taking your idea, figuring out the equipment, how you're gonna record it, how you're gonna figure out the finalizing of that file, the artwork that you have to create, the hosting services that you have to look for, the distribution sources that you might want to share your shows into, and then a little bit about how to start promoting it and marketing it, okay? And separate from that, the teacher will also share the tutorial videos, the handout for the Studio D material with no extra fees, and you still have to set up a test with me to complete that Studio D training.
Right.
Okay.
Another sort of related question that we often hear is, will FPA stream my podcast?
Well, I have it saved in my phone.
I'm glad you called me because I have no idea.
Okay, so will we stream your podcast? Okay, the first thing, I'll start that by saying that we do not want to jeopardize the funding that we get from the cable companies.
Yeah.
So FPA has always been cautious regarding airing any content that members create online, but we allow you, the member, to put it online. Okay, so we're going to continue with that policy. There is technically we are streaming content already, just like we mentioned earlier. If you're a radio producer doing a show in channel 37, you have a live stream that goes out and people could tune into the website or through the tuning app and listen to it live. But we do not have a means or the cost, at least right now, to create like a podcast directory and allow our producers to create the content and then we'll host it for them. So that just like producers have to sort of, if they want to distribute their shows elsewhere, they have to do the legwork on that. The podcast content producer will have to do the same thing. They'll have to air it at FPA and then determine where they're going to distribute it and get permission to do that. Okay.
Okay. Now, there's a question that even I can answer. Are all FPA radio shows pre-recorded? Well, the answer is no, because a lot of us come
live. We have live and pre-recorded radio shows. Regardless whether they're live or pre-recorded, they're all streamed through that stream in the website.
That's right. But yes.
But yeah.
Now, Isaac, you had a question?
Yes, I did. So I was just wondering what are the saving options in there, and also if the video and audio saves to one file, or it's recorded separately.
In the Studio D?
In Studio D, yep.
Okay. Arselius, do you want to tackle this one, or do you want me to answer it?
Just can you repeat the first part of your question, Isaac, please?
How can we save the files we record? Is it connected to our folders? And also is there SD CD drive, SD card, what are the saving options?
So some of the saving options, and Jay, correct me if I'm wrong, we added a member drive on the desktop where members can simply find their files, their folders, and they can grab content from there as well as save content to there. There is an additional SD card in the unit itself, but I'm not sure if we made that available to the members. Jay, you can
Sure.
interject.
So yeah, regarding how you're gonna save your files in Studio D, so again, we have a desktop as part of the equipment in Studio D. So you could technically bring your own hard drive, plug it into the desktop. There's a little hub next to the monitor in the studio, and the hub has HDMI input, SD card input, micro SD card input. You could bring your thumb drive and plug it in, and when you're recording your footage or your audio, just make sure that you transfer it to that external drive that you want to take with you. Now, we do have the member drive saved in the desktop. So if you want to create a folder with your full name or your program name, you could just record it and save it into that networking folder in case you need to retrieve it from any of the other stations around the FPA. So there's multiple options: your own devices, your member drive folder. Yeah, we're not limiting things as much as possible. We want you guys to have as many options as you can.
And the other question is there a way to save the video and audio in one file, or they both record separately?
So, okay, so say you decide to record an interview that you're doing in Studio D through Zoom. We recommend that you launch Zoom, but then you launch another program called OBS. And through OBS, you'll be able to, sort of like we're doing right now, sharing the screens and showing your desktop, or record everything, all your video and audio into that one MP4 file. Okay. Yeah. So there's definitely ways to do it. We don't recommend you guys recording straight. Like if you're gonna do a Zoom interview, record that session through Zoom, because if you're gonna broadcast it, it's not quite the right specs for us to be able to broadcast it. So if you're gonna record a Zoom interview, open OBS, set that up in OBS, and record the video conference call or the video interview through OBS. And that file will be the right format, the right resolution, frame rates, and all that stuff. Yeah. And the tutorial and the handout has all that information.
Okay. And did you say when does the class start?
So the Studio D self-training is anytime that you want. The Audio for Podcasting class, the first session will begin about mid-September, if I'm not mistaken.
Mid-September, okay.
So we always, just like many of the other classes, we'll need a minimum of probably 2 students and a maximum capacity, just because of the hands-on training that we're including. It's going to be 6. So 2 minimum, 6 maximum, because the teacher's going to walk through all the steps with each of the students.
Okay. No, they're. Oh yeah, Arselius has posted on the chat. He just spelled out the Podbean, Buzzsprout, and Blueberry. Just so you can get the spellings. Janice, the goddess, points out that her World Reggae Party is 95% of commercial music. So I guess that means she won't be able to post it.
Right, but if she has interviews or commentary,
right,
might be good. Yeah.
Right.
Interviews or commentary?
Yes, if you have interviews and you have permission from the guest to air the information, then yeah, absolutely, Janice.
Okay.
Okay. And Bomani, are they still with us? The Dark Knight of the Airwaves? No. Are they saying good morning, world? Sorry? No.
I think he left.
Okay. Good morning, world. And thank you very much. Got to shake loose now. Duty calls. I've got to go back to work. Fascinating session, though. Thank you very much. And we out. Oh, well, I think we all agree it is a fascinating session. Now, any more questions or thought? I think we've covered, I mean, what I particularly want to just be clear was about the training and that there are two completely separate, well, pretty much separate training programs.
Yeah, there are options.
Talked about for new people and not for new people. We've covered where can you produce a podcast. We've covered will FPA stream it. Oh, what about our other radio stations producing? Do they have a similar kind of facility?
Sure. So I can't talk about the facility, but I am, based on my contacts with like my instructors and other public access stations.
Yes.
I know some radio stations, they use services like iHeartRadio.
Yes.
So they actually take the programs they create and sort of share them with those services, and people that have a smart device or smartphone could download that app and locate the radio stations and be able to listen to the shows that way. But
and why don't we do that?
Because it's easier for independent. So everybody that does a show at FPA are independent producers, whether you're radio or TV, you're independent producers. Yes. So it's easier for you to get permission from us to distribute the content to places that you want to distribute it to. So if you do decide to, create find a hosting for your podcast and distribute it to places like Spotify or even radio, you can. But we give you that permission to do it.
Yeah.
And we're not the only public access station that is introducing podcasting. DCTV, as of last fall, had a webinar about podcasting. In Arlington Independent Media, they're trying to develop some sort of podcasting curriculum.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Arselius, can you show us some kind of mood light show or something from Studio D?
Hey, 1 second.
Perhaps while that's being set up, Chuck, do you have any thoughts, observations? Hello? No.
Is Chuck still on?
Well, he's pretending he's on.
Do you hear me now?
Oh, yeah. What? Yeah, he is on. Yes.
My thoughts on this are that Jay and Arselius did an excellent job. I think they did a great job of describing to everyone exactly what we're offering. They gave good detail and good examples. I want to thank them for a job well done.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think the fact that they assembled that themselves is just absolutely brilliant. And the thing weighed a ton, and they were handling it. I mean, they're just amazing. Yeah.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Are any of the people watching this Zoom meet and greet, have any of them done podcasting before? Did anybody answer that question?
Not sure.
I have.
Okay.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Okay. Well, can you
So
tell
who has Isaac and
Janice?
Janice.
Jenny? Oh, great. Anything you want to add?
So basically, what I do with my radio show is I pretty much record it, and once I record it, I edit it and put it on my website as a podcast. So that's kind of what I've been doing. With my show.
And I was invited to one of my reggae bands, local reggae bands, that was doing a podcast to put on their website. And I was the interviewer as well as the special guest. So it was rad. It was really cool, but it does take some work to do it.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
And Ellie or Elle has asked, what are the time limits of podcasting? I mean, I think it's just what the audience will take, isn't it?
Okay, so that is a good question. Again, if you're gonna air the content at FPA, you do have to follow the same standards. If it's a radio show, the slots have to be 58 minutes. If it's a TV show, it has to be 28 or 58 minutes.
Okay.
But remember, if you're creating multiple episodes, and say ahead of time, you know ahead of time my podcast is gonna be 15 minutes. Okay, so we cannot air a 15-minute program at FPA. Say if it's a TV show, we can't air a 15-minute program, but there's ways that you could add maybe PSAs or promo items for you to reach that limit. Okay, so as long as you reach the limit of what we could air, you could take that content and then get permission to podcast it.
Yeah.
Or combine 2 episodes together into one. That's another way.
Okay. Arselius?
Yes, I'm here.
Do we have a show? A light show?
I'm not sure. Can you guys see the different lights flickering at the moment?
You can a bit.
It could be that our camera may be detecting it as noise at the moment. But I have a really nice light show going on between green, red, and blue. No, not really.
I don't think so.
The lights reflected on your shirt.
Okay.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, at least you know I'm telling the truth.
Right. Yeah.
And it wasn't
Don can
video.
say it reflected on your forehead. Yes. Yeah. Right.
Well, we'll fine tune that. If it's a feature that's really wanted, we'll definitely fine tune this. This is actually our first real live session out of Studio D.
Yes.
Well, sounds great. Okay, well, if there are no more questions, I really want to thank on behalf of us. I mean, Ruth will have the final word. Just for now, I want to thank Jay and Arselius for all the work that they've done on the studio and on the podcasting class and planning for the podcasting. And I think today's presentation has been extremely eye-opening for a lot of us who've been sort of throwing these terms around that didn't entirely understand how they related. And I think the work you've been doing has been just absolutely fantastic. So thank you all so much, particularly you two.
Thank you
And
for
Ruth?
attending,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I've really enjoyed the hearing all about the podcasting. It will be coming up at FPA. Thank you, Jay. You did a great job, and Arselius as well, sitting in recording our recording pod. And thank you to all the members. So this is just the beginning of podcasting at FPA. We'll be hearing more about this as time goes on. And might be kind of fun to have some FPA podcasters come on too for a meet and greet. Tell us about their experience. So thank you all for coming.
Okay, I have a final question. Arselius, you've been inside that room for an hour. Are you suffocating to death or do you feel fine?
I'm actually pretty good. As I mentioned, there's an exhaust fan as well as supply air in here, so it's pretty comfortable. I imagine if I was probably a really animated person, I may suffer from a little expiration, or perspiration. But other than that, I think we're okay.
That's good to hear. Sorry, Ruth, I interrupted you.
Oh no, I'm done. I just wanted to thank everybody for coming, and looking forward to hearing about other people's experience, other FPA members' experiences once they start their podcasting.
Great. I think that's up. Thank you all. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Okay, good night.
Good
night, everybody.
Yes, Ruth.
Chuck is still on. I have a question for Chuck.
Chuck?
Just wanted to ask him about, if previous meet and greets are still put on YouTube, because I thought that our edited meet and greets were put onto our YouTube channel. Does anybody know?
I think you have to take, here's Chuck. Again, he's pretending to be on.
Oh, come on.
Chuck?
Oh, well,
Do you hear me now?
Oh, yes, we can.
Oh, very good. I was muted. I'm sorry. I was muted. Ruth, you are correct. We record we record the meet and greets, then they're edited, and then you're correct, they're then posted to YouTube. So the original Zoom meet and greet on podcasting is on YouTube, and we're very happy to work with Jay to have that information sent out to the members tomorrow, as he suggested.
And are all of our old meet and greets, like even the ones that we did in person, we did some good ones that were on legal issues, copyright and music and things like that.
We had a very good session with Pat Alderhoff from American University. I thought it was extremely well done, and I believe that is on YouTube, Ruth, but I cannot guarantee it.
Yeah,
I'll get an answer
that
for you
was
by
quite a long
tomorrow.
time ago, but I don't believe the rules have changed that much, have they?
No, I don't. You're absolutely correct. I think that fair use has been pretty consistent.
Yeah. So how do people get to the YouTube channel?
Hi, Ruth. Sorry, quick question regarding the meet and greet regarding the fair use. If you go through the training bulletin board in the extras, there's a link to that video, and it's about 45 minutes.
Very good.
And if anybody needs to go through go to our YouTube page, if you go to our main website, in the bottom of the first page, there's a little YouTube icon, and if you click that, you get the YouTube FPA YouTube page.
So there's probably a lot of good information on the YouTube
Yeah.
channel.
There's that's where we generally put all the playlists for the YouTube video or the presentations that we make. Yeah, that should be there, but I'll double check tomorrow morning, and I'll probably send an announcement to the membership.
Okay. Sounds great. Thank you, Chuck.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Good night. Bye.
Thank you, everyone, and good night.
Bye. Good night.